As I've mentioned, we are starting off with a new series entitled Nameless but Noteworthy. So, Nameless but Noteworthy is going to be the series on the stories of 6 nameless women in the Bible. So, you will hear from 6 beautiful speakers in the next 4 Sundays. I'm sure that we all know the stories of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, right? Noted women, Abigail, Deborah, Ruth, Esther, or Mary, Martha. And we have named our children by their names. Why? Because we're just so enthralled by their characteristic traits that we want our children to be able to get them. But do you know that there are characters in the Bible that were not given names? Their names are unknown. But that doesn't mean that their stories do not give any importance or any relevance to the whole story that God is weaving before us. Maybe, just maybe, the authors chose not to name them because their story is even greater than the information of who they are. Because in every story, in every verse, in every chapter that the Bible has written, we all know that all of this is being completed by the whole series of stories, of characters that has been written about. You may feel that you are unseen, you are unimportant, but rest assured that through this series, you will be able to know that everyone's story is vital in the whole scheme of things. Because your story is a vital part in the story that God is weaving. A story of redemption, a story of love. Through you, God will be able to complete His story. So, do not say that, Sister Barry, yung testimony ko naman, benign lang. There's nothing bombastic, nothing grand about my story. But no, each one of us takes a part in the completion of God's story of love for mankind. Okay? So to start off, allow me to bring you to the story of the Shunammite woman, to be taken from 2 Kings chapter 4 first, and then you will be able to read about her again in chapter 8. But yes, even in the Old Testament, there are women and even men who the Bible writers chose not to name. So they are nameless, but all of them, there is a noteworthy thing about their story. Most importantly, we will be able to unearth the characteristic of God or the lessons that God has imparted. If we have gone through the I Am lessons where Jesus was able to speak of who He is, then God, through the stories of these women, nameless at that, will be able to reveal who He is in terms of relating to His people. I have entitled today's conversation, All is Well. All is well is a phrase that you will hear repeatedly in the story of the Shunammite woman. The Shunammite woman, in any circumstance that she was at, will be able to repeatedly say, all is well, or everything is all right, everything will be fine. Even in the whatever situation she was at, she was able to exude and express and say and declare, all is well. Because somewhere in the deep recesses of her heart, there was something that she believed. There was something that she was banking on. She knew something. And that something is this, that shalom is found in God alone. That amidst anything that was transpiring, the triumphs and the trials, the joys and the sorrows that she had, she was openly able to declare, all is well. Do you know that all is well is actually a greeting of shalom? It was a greeting of peace, which the Hebrews would constantly say and express. Shalom Aleichem is something that they would use to greet people. It means peace to you. So when they met people, pag nasalubong nila, they would express, peace to you. Shalom Aleichem. And then you will have to answer back, Aleichem Shalom, which means, to you be peace. So people would you would constantly hear this in the conversation of people, that they would be expressing peace to one another. Pretty much like tayo. When we meet people, we don't say, magandang umaga po, or magandang hapon po, good afternoon, good morning. We don't, right? Normally, our greeting is, kamusta po? Diba? How are you? It's not actually a greeting of pleasantries of the morning or the afternoon or the night. The more common one is kamusta. And the same goes for like other countries. In Australia, they don't say hello, but instead they say good day. Right? Good day, mate. So it was different. For the Hebrews, for the Jews, they would extend peace to the people that they would meet. And the same was true for the Shunammite woman. Why? Where did this originate from? It was first heard through Gideon. When he won against the Midianites, he established an altar and referred to God as Jehovah Shalom, the Lord of peace, because it was God who brought peace to them after their war with the Midianites. In the same token, Isaiah, when he was prophesying about the coming Messiah, he said, Wonderful Counselor, Prince of Peace. Jesus is the Prince of Peace. As Gideon experienced that in the presence of God, there is peace, as Gideon has experienced. When we are reconciled with God, as Jesus has exemplified to his disciples, as the disciples has experienced, we too can have shalom. We can have peace through God, Jehovah Shalom, through Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace. And therefore, there is a strong declaration at the end of this conversation, and even throughout all our lives, that when we are in the presence of God, when we are reconciled with God, we will be able to discover that shalom is found in God alone. That at the end of all this, of whatever it is that you encounter, at the end of this conversation about the Shunammite woman, we'll be able to all say, indeed, shalom is found in God alone. Let's go through the story of the Shunammite woman in 2 Kings chapter 4, starting off with verse 8. One day, Elisha went to the town of Shunem. Elisha was the protege of Elijah, very famous prophet. You will be able to read about them in 1 and 2 Kings, and you will be able to know who these people are. Elijah, very favored, very good prophet, very obedient, to the point that he was taken away by God. He did not die, he was just taken away. Bigla na lang, shoot, he was gone. And during that time, he was training Elisha. And Elisha, yes po, male po si Elisha. But now, his name is now being given to girls, right? So Elisha is a male prophet. And this male prophet was given a double anointing. They were not being pitted against each other, but it was like a foretaste of what Jesus was going to do. That the great prophet after Elijah, who was already great as he is, would be a great prophet. And then when Jesus comes, he was even going to be a greater one. Not only a prophet, but the Savior of the world. During that time, the prophets did not have a permanent address. They would be roving around. They would be moving from one town to another. So Elisha's route was going to the places that he frequented were Bethel, Gilgal, Jericho. Going up towards Jezreel is a town known as Shunem. And this town was something that they would always pass by because they would constantly go to Mount Carmel. So every time he was going from here, from down, and would go up through the Jordan River, they would pass by Shunem. Shunem is a pathway forward to Mount Carmel. So when Elisha went down to town, there was a wealthy woman who lived there. Wealthy is translated in Hebrew as gadol. Gadol means you are rich, affluent, moneyed. And he was not only rich, affluent, and moneyed, but she was great, powerful, and influential. It seems like money and influence would go hand in hand. When you have more money, you will be able to create more influence. The women during that time were not only second-class citizens, they were third-class citizens. They were just behind the curtain. You will not see them, or they are not always made known. But for the woman to be described as wealthy, they might be really, really, really wealthy, that the wealth of the man, of the husband, would be overflowing down to the wife as being a wealthy person also. The Shunammite woman being described as wealthy was not only because she had the money, but also because she had great power and she was very influential. So, when every time Elisha would go down to Shunem, and the woman would see him, the woman would invite him home. So sabi niya, come, have a meal. Because she knows that this man must have been tired. The thing is, she would always invite him. Every time the Shunammite woman would see him. And after that, they were able to forge a friendship. So it became a practice already that every time Elisha is in town, he would pass by the Shunammite woman's house. So one day, when the Shunammite woman and the husband were maybe dining together over a cup of coffee or having merienda, the woman spoke with the husband and said, I am sure this man who stops in from time to time is a man of God. She was so sure. I don't know what it was. Was it because of what she had heard, that this is the protege of Elijah, that this is the prophet who has replaced Elijah? Or was it because of the demeanor that he had, that every time he'd present himself, maybe there was just a certain glow about him? So let's build a small room. Let's build an Airbnb for him. Okay? On the rooftop. During that time, the roofs were flat. So most of the houses were just single stories, except for the palace and the very, very rich ones, where their houses are several stories high. But normally, generally, it was just one floor level. And imagine with me, one floor level, and it was all deck. Patag po siya, flat, and house after house after house are several roof decks. And they say that during the summer, they would go up there to have a cool breeze at night. And they would be like sharing a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or even some wine. And they would be able to greet and fellowship each other between the roofs. Pare, kamusta? They would be able to do that. And you will be able to see it's like a long roadway of roof decks. So that is what was happening. And the woman, the Shunammite woman, proposed to the husband, let's build a room on the roof deck. Okay? And it was no ordinary room. Normally, if you'll provide a room, it would have been just enough for him to be able to sleep. But the Shunammite woman said, oh, you build it na, put 4 walls, and then I'll go to IKEA. And I'll go shopping for a bed, a table, a chair, and a lamp. She provided for him very well. It was not only the food that she was going to prepare tediously for him, but she was also going to prepare a good, comfortable place for the man of God to be able to rest at. And this would propel the story of the Shunammite woman. Her kindness, her generosity, her hospitality was going to open great doors so that the story of the Shunammite woman will be something that we are going to talk about even up until today. 2,000 years later, So one day, when Elisha returned to Shunem, he went up to the upper room to rest, as he would normally do now. And he said to his servant, meron siyang sidekick. So he spoke with Gehazi and said, "Tell the woman from Shunem, I want to speak to her." And Gehazi indulged. Okay, called the woman up to the room. And Elisha speaks to the woman through Gehazi because the prophets of old cannot talk to women directly. So they had to have a tawag doon, may bridge, may middleman. Okay? Here it goes. "We appreciate the kind concern that you have shown us. Thank you very much for providing us not only with food, but also with a room. What can we do for you?" Elisha wanted to repay the woman's kindness. He wanted to repay the woman's generosity. Because before, you do not accept just anybody to your house. Pretty much like today. We don't really accept anyone unless they are referred or close na close kayo ng kakilala, diba? But otherwise, you don't really open up your home, much more build a part of your home for them. And so Elisha suggested, "Can we put a good word for you to the king?" It is so enriching to the heart if someone acknowledges the kindness and the generosity that you offer. Not that we want to be paid, but I guess we just want to be remembered for the things that we do. But look at the response of the Shunammite woman. No. I'm good. I'm okay. Okay lang po ako. And look what she says. "My family takes good care of me." To the Hebrews, family is very important. The tribe is very important. That's their whole being. That's who they identify with. So this woman saying, "I'm okay. There's nothing that you should do. There's nothing that you need to repay me for. I am okay because my family takes good care of me." So the woman left. And in the privacy of Gehazi and Elisha, si Elisha hindi pa rin po mapakali. He still wanted to do something for the woman. So he said, "Gehazi, what do you think can we do for the woman? What do you suggest? I really want to repay. She has just been super, super kind." And Gehazi said, look at the description, they don't have a son. And during that time, there are two curses that the disobedient would receive from God. Sabi nila, dalawang curses na pinakamasama. One is having leprosy, because then you are really ostracized from society. You cannot mingle. You are going to go far, far away, and you're going to be isolated. And that's sad. And the second one is being barren. Being barren means, it is so tragic because it means that is the end of your family line. And as I've mentioned, family to the Hebrews are very, very important. That is how someone takes care of them when they get old. That is how they are able to continue to keep the wealth in the family, their properties, and someone who will be able to maintain those. If you don't have an heir, if you don't have children, then that means that's the end of your line. So that is the biggest, greatest, saddest curse any woman will be able to receive, that you are barren and you cannot produce a child. Therefore, I don't know how old the woman was, but saying that it seems like that she was barren, I don't know if it was because she was way beyond childbearing years, or was it because of this description that her husband is an old man. Therefore, it was not physically, scientifically possible during that time to have a child anymore. Elisha's thought bubble just simply flickered and shined because he said, "Call her back again." That's a very good idea. And then when the woman returned, Elisha said to her when she was, "Next year," he prophesies, "next year at this time, you will be holding or embracing a baby boy in your arms." You would expect the woman to be jumping and leaping and screaming for joy. Yes, I'm gonna have a baby, because that's very, very important to them. But lo and behold, what is the woman's reply? No, 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 my Lord. No, no, no. I'm okay. I'm okay. No, man of God, he says. Don't deceive me. Maybe, just maybe, she has heard so many things, so many suggestions, and they all failed. And for even the man of God, this woman did not like to hope anymore. She said, no, my Lord, huwag mo na akong bulahin. Hindi na talaga pwede. Si Sir, old na si Sir. Diba? Ako, past na din ako. Hindi na, I'm not going to have a child anymore. So she was urging the man of God, Elisha, do not make false promises for me. Do not lift my hopes high again. Do not make me hope again. Kamusta po tayo? Is there a promise from God that you are starting to release because it has happened for so long and it is not coming into reality? May pangako po ba ang Panginoon sa atin na ayoko na, di naman totoo, giving me just high hopes? Do you know that God's promise to Abraham, that he was going to be the father of many nations, that his heirs and children were going to be as numerous as the stars and as plenty as the sand on the sea? How long before that happened? Over 20 years bago po dumating si Isaac from the time of the promise. It was taking so long that Sarah needed to intervene. Sige, si Hagar na lang. And that was where the problem happened. Because oftentimes when the promise of God for us doesn't happen, we intervene. And what happens? Nagkakagulo-gulo tuloy yung mundo. Because we intervene, mga kapatid, God does not need our help to fulfill His promise. He does not. The only thing we have to do is to patiently wait. When God tells us that He has a promise for us, hold on, hang on. Because God is a faithful promise keeper. She became pregnant, and true to what Elisha said, that same time, the year later, she had a son. Just as Elisha had said. Because mga kapatid, we can't manipulate God. We can't make Him move in our life the way we want to. But you know what we can do? As the woman paved the way for the man of God to be in her home, that's what we can do for God. When God has a promise for us that we are sure that He has given us, make room for Him to move. Huwag nating harangin. The thing for us is that we limit God. We limit God in what He can do for us. Not even thinking that what God can do is not what we think He can do. The way we limit God, we put Him in a box. Lord, ito lang ha. Why limit Him when He can do far beyond that? He said His ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. We have to make room for God to move in our lives so that God can move freely and do what He must in our lives. So one day, it was bring your child to work day. Okay? So sinama ni Daddy si Boy to the field. It was harvest season. So the field was very plentiful. There were so many people, and the son was frolicking and playing around. They said that the son would have been about 5 to 7 years old at this time. Not really old enough to be able to help in the field, but his presence was a welcome delight, especially to the father. He brought the son, and I am sure he was beaming with pride. Diba? As they said, he was already an old man. Sabi siguro nila, si Sir, yung apo kasama. Diba? No, but it was his son. And he was pride. It was pride that was beaming in his face. And the father who was working with the harvesters, all of a sudden, the son complains, Daddy, head pain. Diba? And she started crying and maybe just clinging to the father. Tinawag ang servant and brought the son and sent the son to the mom. uwi mo na nga, masakit daw ang ulo. Diba? So, the servant took him home, and the mother held her in her lap, embraced her, was comforting her, and slowly, before her very eyes, the son died. During that time, a dead person cannot be placed in the home. You remember Lazarus? He needed to be buried right away, because if you are exposed or you go near a dead body or a corpse, you defile yourself. You become unclean, and your house become not worthy for worship. Therefore, what they do as soon as they die, within 24 hours they should be buried. Pretty much like what they did to Lazarus, if you remember the preaching of Pastor Joey a few weeks ago. But look at what the woman did. She was not screaming. She was not calling out for the husband. She was not calling for the household help. What she did was she carried him up, laid him down to the bed of the man of God, to the prophet Elisha, and then shut the door and left him. Why do you think was that her attitude? It was because she refused to bury the promise that was given to her. This is the man of God's promise to me. This was given to God, by God to me through the promise of the man of God. She refused to bury God's promise. And I hope that that is going to be the same attitude that we have. That instead of shutting down God's promise and declaring, ayoko na, hindi binibigay ni Lord yung promise niya, instead of sumuko tayo, no. This woman did not like to bury it. This is God's promise to me, and I will see it through, that the fulfillment of this promise will happen. So what did she do? She sent a message to the husband and told her, send one of the servants to me, so that I can hurry and see the man of God and come back right away. But the husband did not. So the husband complained. It's harvest season, honey. We're very busy here in the field. But why are you going to the man of God now? It's not the New Moon Festival, which is a season where they will be able to speak to the prophet. It's not also Sabbath. Why are you going to visit the man of God? And it was not going to be near. It's far. If you recall, it was going up. It's about 30 kilometers away that she needed to travel. Tingnan po ninyo kung ano yung sagot niya. But she said, it will be all right. Other translations will say, all is well. Mas maano pa tong isa, everything is all right. Shunammite woman, not everything is all right. Your child is dead. How can you say everything is all right? Why? Because this is her declaration. Shalom. Aleichem shalom. Peace be with you. She could openly declare peace because she knew that God's promise was there. She knew Jehovah Shalom. She knew that it was in the presence of God that everything will be all right. All is well. And Jesus, before he left, about the time that he was about to be captured and killed, this is what he left his disciples. I am leaving you with a gift. Peace of mind and heart. And the peace I give you is a gift the world cannot give. So you don't be afraid or troubled. Jesus left us peace. And that is the state that he wants us to be in. That in the presence of Jehovah Shalom, there is peace. That in the presence and in a relationship with the Prince of Peace, there is peace. Therefore, the Shunammite woman could very well say, Shalom is found in God alone. In whatever circumstance that I am in, whether that is in triumph or in trials, Shalom is found in God alone. All is well. If there are problems, all is well. If there are trials, all is well. In the heyday and the joys of life, all is well. Shalom, shalom, shalom. Nagbigay ng bonus. All is well.
Na-extend ang contract mo. May aumento pa. Sabihin, may raise. All is well. Tita Barry, my pass is not yet approved. All is well. Your sickness, they don't know what it is. All is well. 1 taong ka nang inuubo. All is well. Kapatid, magpa-doktor ka naman. Kasi may responsibilidad ka din. Go to the doctor. Because although the woman, the Shunammite woman knew that all is well, she was going to do something. And this is what she did. So, she saddled on the donkey and said to the servant, "Hurry, don't slow down unless I tell you to." Okay, picture this with me. The woman is the only one who's going to ride on the donkey. Because isa lang yun. It's a good for one person ride. While the servant runs beside the donkey. And if the donkey would slow down, hahatawin niya yun para magmadali. So with the instruction, hurry, don't slow down. You just go as fast as you can without stopping until I tell you. So imagine with me how the donkey is going to gallop, and every time he would slow down, the servant would hit him so that they would be able to run faster and faster. And we know why there was such haste in this action of the woman. So di ba, pagod na siguro yung hindi lang yung donkey, yung lawit dila, pati yung servant. And as she was approaching, the man of God saw him. She went to Mount Carmel because she knew that Elisha would frequent that place. Elisha saw her at a distance and said to Gehazi, "Look, the woman from Shunem is coming. You go, welcome her and ask her, is everything all right with you? Is everything all right with your husband? Is everything all right with your son?" There was something that Elisha knew, but still, he could not figure out what it is. Maybe, just maybe, the Shunammite woman never came to visit him. But the Shunammite woman coming to him, there must be something wrong. And when Gehazi met the woman, you know what the woman's answer was? "Is everything all right with you?" And what was her reply? "Everything is fine. Shalom. All is well." What? Not everything is well. You're tired and sweaty, 30 kilometers away, galloping on very fast, high speed. You are tired, you are dirty, and most of all, your son is dead. How can you declare that everything is fine? But when she came to the man of God at the mountain, she fell on the ground, embraced his legs, pretty much saying, in respect, in reverence, and in awe. She caught hold of her feet. That was how respectful they were. They needed to go down below. And Gehazi was about to push her away. But Elisha told him, "No, don't push her away. She is deeply troubled. But the Lord has not revealed to me what it is." The woman could have very well said, "Kilala niyo po ba ako? Natatandaan niyo po ba kung sino ako? I built that house, that room, that Airbnb on our roof for you. I prepared breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you. I got you Egyptian cotton linens on your bed. I gave you soft towels. I even bought gas for your lamp. Do you remember me?" She could have very well said that, right? She could have reminded Elisha who she was, although Elisha knew very well who she was. But no, this is what she said. "Sir, did I ask you for a son? Hindi ba sabi ko nga, wag mo akong bigyan? Didn't I tell you not to deceive me? Didn't I tell you not to get my hopes high?" She did not have to say anything else because Elisha knew that there was something wrong with the boy. So he sent Gehazi with his staff, because during that time the staff and the cloak of the prophet is a representation of himself. So he told Gehazi, go, bring my staff. Don't talk to anyone along the way. Go quickly, as fast as you can, and lay the staff on the child's face. Why was he instructed not to meet anyone? Because Gehazi was going to be delayed. So Elisha gave him specific instructions. Do not talk to anyone along the way. Instead, hurry and put my staff on the face of the child. So Gehazi left, but the woman stayed. And yakap-yakap pa rin siguro niya yung paa ni Elisha. She said, as surely as the Lord lives, and as you yourself live, I won't go home unless you come with me. The woman was using his very own words to Elijah. When Elijah was about to be taken by God, Elijah was telling him, go, you go about your business. You do what I told you to do. But Elisha told Elijah, as surely as the Lord lives, I will not leave you. This woman was using the very words of Elisha. When Elijah was about to leave, he said, as surely as the Lord lives, and that's going to be forever. She did not have any plans of leaving Elisha unless he goes with her. That was how persistent the faith and the belief that this woman had on the man of God. You gave me this child, and you will have to be able to give him back to me. That was what was running in the mind of the Shunammite woman. Therefore, that was how persistent, that was how influential this woman was. So Elisha returned with her. On the other side of town in Shunem, where Gehazi went on ahead, put the staff on the child's face, but nothing happened. Diba? In Shunem, turn ng camera, nakita natin, Gehazi was there in the Shunammite woman's house, in Elisha's room, but there was nothing that was happening. The staff did not work. So Elisha left and was in the action of going back to Mount Carmel until they met. And his report was, nothing happened. The child is still very dead. So, Elisha arrived in Shunem, and the child was indeed dead. Lying there on the prophet's bed, he went in alone and shut the door behind him and prayed to the Lord. Do you notice that in every prophet's major events or activities, what would they do? They would always pray. As with Jesus, every time there's a major thing that was going to happen, Jesus would commune with his Father. Why? The prophets knew, Elisha knew, that it was not him. He was but a vessel. He was but an instrument of God. That if God was going to do something, if something was going to happen to the boy, it is not his own doing, but instead, it is God's. Therefore, Elisha bowed his head, knelt down, and prayed to the Lord. Then he lay down on the child's body, placing his mouth on the child's mouth, his eyes on the child's eyes, and his hands on the child's hands. They say it's like artificial resuscitation. It's said, parang sinipr niya. This event also happened in Elijah's life. Elijah resuscitated or resurrected or raised a young boy of Zarephath. You will read that in 1 Kings. So maybe Elisha remembered that this is what my master did. And he did the same. Elijah brought that boy to life. But here, look, he stretched out on him. And the child began to grow warm. He was transferring his body heat to the child, but the child was still not breathing. He was still dead. So what did he do? Elisha got up, walked back and forth across the room once, twice, and then he stretched out on him again. This time, the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. He was alive. 7 times they were able to count. Achoo, 1, achoo, 2, achoo. 7 times na bilang nila, pero walang nagtanong ng pangalan ng Shunammite woman. Mare, ano nga ba pangalan mo? Wala, di ba? But this is how real and how true this story is. Because even to the detail of having 7 sneezes, they were able to count and write it down. That is how true this story is. So, Elisha summoned Gehazi, called the child's mother, and he said, and when she came, Elisha said, here, take your son. And do you think he just left right away? No. She fell on the feet of Elisha again. And with tremendous gratitude, I'm sure with tears in her eyes, with thanksgiving on her lips, she was just overwhelmed with thanksgiving to Elisha. Then took her son, embraced him, and carried him downstairs. Elisha was able to fulfill his promise to the woman. This same time next year, you will embrace your son. And here she is again, embracing the boy of promise that was given to her by God. Therefore, from that time on, indeed she was able to declare, Shalom is found in God alone. I don't know what you're going through, mga kapatid. The Bible says, in this world, we will have a lot of troubles. But lo and behold, Jesus has conquered the world. Jesus did not promise, God did not promise us a problem-free, illness-free, trouble-free life. He never did. So if there's someone who will promise you, join us and your problems will all be gone, no. Because that's not the promise that God gave. But His promise is, I will be with you. And I will give you that peace that you need, no matter what trouble surrounds you. The Prince of Peace has given us the peace that even the world cannot give. But He said, you will not be troubled or afraid, because shalom is found in God alone. The Shunammite woman's story teaches us that even in times of difficulty, we can find peace of God. Even in times of trials with God, we can declare, all is well. That even through the odds and triumphs of our lives, we can declare, it is well with me. It is well with my soul. Because we have Jehovah Shalom, Jesus Christ, and Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace. So what do we do? Depend on God. No matter what. You may be going through such a difficult time, the most difficult time in your life maybe. But we can depend on God. We can depend on our Jehovah Shalom. We can depend on our Yahweh. We can depend on that marvelous God, promise-keeping God that we have. Because as Jesus declared, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. I do not give you as the world gives. Do not let your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. We may go through the challenges of life, but we can rest assured that Jehovah Shalom and Jesus Christ, the Prince of Peace, will be with us. So mga kapatid, depend on God, because He promised that shalom is found in God alone.